Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a surprisingly powerful topic. It's all about how the daily habits we barely even notice, what we eat, what we avoid, are fundamentally linked to reproductive health. We've gone through the sources to give you a complete but, concise look at this.
And our mission here is really to take these clinical insights and just make them accessible. We want to show you exactly how deep the influence of these seemingly small habits really runs. We're not just talking about, optimization. We're talking about foundational biological resilience.
Creating the best possible environment for conception. And we have to start with a concept that, well, it sounds economic, but it's completely biological. We're calling it inflation. Not rising prices, but rising biological inflammation, what the sources call the silent fire. Now, inflammation on its own is natural, right? It's your body's fire alarm.
It's essential. It's designed to protect you from an injury or an infection.
But the problem isn't the alarm.
No, the problem is when the alarm gets stuck in the on position, when it just never switches off. That's chronic inflammation. And it's usually fueled by things like sustained stress, poor diet.
All those processed foods.
Exactly. Or other specific lifestyle choices. And when this chronic inflammation takes hold, it starts to disrupt the essential pathways that govern reproduction.
So if you're trying to conceive, this silent fire it's not just an annoyance, it's actively sabotaging the process.
Precisely. It disrupts everything that needs to be perfectly calibrated. We're talking hormone balance, the quality of eggs, even the quality of sperm. It generates this excessive oxidative stress, which is basically, it's like molecular rust. And it damages the delicate components you need for a viable pregnancy.
It makes the whole journey that much harder.
It really does.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit more. Let's unpack the damage. We know it's chronic, but how does this silent fire actually create physical roadblocks?
Well, at the cellular level, when inflammation becomes chronic, your immune cells are just. They're overactive. They're releasing this continuous stream of signaling molecules.
And those stick around too long.
Way too long. And they start causing all this damage. For female fertility, the sources show this directly impairs oocyte quality.
So the quality of the actual egg itself.
The egg itself. And it hinders healthy follicle development. And you need those follicles for the eggs to mature properly. If that's impaired, you disrupt the entire hormone cascade.
Which you need for a regular cycle and, successful ovulation.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing it's not just the microscopic components. The physical structures are also at risk.
They absolutely are. Chronic inflammation can impair the uterus, the cervix, and even the placenta after implantation happens. You see, these inflammatory markers can inhibit the cellular crosstalk that's required for an embryo to attach to the uterine wall.
Which obviously just reduces the chances of a successful pregnancy from the very start.
From the very start.
I see a really direct connection here to some common fertility challenges, maybe most notably polycystic ovary syndrome or PCOS.
This is where it gets really interesting, because inflammation and PCOS are locked in this vicious cycle. What's happening is that the inflammation makes existing insulin resistance even worse.
How does it do that?
Well, the inflammatory signaling interferes directly with how the insulin hormone binds to its receptors, especially in the ovaries. So the ovaries are just constantly being overstimulated by high insulin levels.
And that overstimulation throws everything off balance.
It does. That sustained high insulin level. It prevents the proper maturation and release of an egg.
Yeah.
It just throws ovulation completely off track.
And since irregular ovulation is a huge part of what hinders conception with PCOS,
then reducing inflammation becomes a key therapeutic target. You're addressing the root cause that's fueling that hormonal imbalance.
Now, it is so crucial to make sure we understand this is not just a female issue. Our sources are very clear that men are also significantly affected.
So vital to point that out. Men are definitely not spared from this. Chronic inflammation damages sperm parameters by increasing oxidative stress right there in the seminal fluid.
And that leads to, what, DNA damage?
DNA fragmentation, yes.
Right.
Basically, damage to the genetic code the sperm is carrying. It also significantly reduces sperm motility and concentration.
So it's an across-the-board reduction in viability.
It is. It just makes the journey to successful fertilization that much harder.
And the sources introduce this powerful term for the long-term cost. Inflammaging. That sounds pretty serious.
It is. Inflammaging is basically accelerated aging that's driven by chronic inflammation. Think of it like your biological clock just running way too fast. For reproductive health, this process accelerates ovarian decline. It leads to poor egg quality because the mitochondria, the energy centers of the egg, are literally damaged.
And that increases the risk of miscarriage or IVF failure?
Dramatically. So addressing inflammation isn't just a short-term fix. It's a way to push back against premature reproductive aging.
Okay, so we've identified the enemy, the silent fire. Now we need the toolbox to put it out. And our sources detail a really powerful tool we can all use every day, our diet. Let's talk about the plate as an anti-inflammatory weapon.
Absolutely. We need to draw a clear line between anti-inflammatory foods, which are packed with antioxidants and healthy fats, and the pro-inflammatory foods that just rev up the immune response.
We're talking about conscious choices here, things that support hormone balance and improve the health of both eggs and sperm.
By lowering that systemic stress. Exactly.
So let's start with the eat more list, the anti-inflammatory plate. Fruits and vegetables are always number one, but let's get specific. Why does that rainbow of colors matter so much?
It's all about the phytochemicals. So take berries, strawberries, blueberries, cherries. They are packed with antioxidants called polyphenols. And these molecules are powerful scavengers. They neutralize the free radicals that are created by chronic inflammation.
Reducing that cellular damage?
To the reproductive organs, yes. Same with deep greens like spinach and kale, or those deep reds and oranges you see in peppers and tomatoes. They're all delivering these crucial anti-inflammatory signals.
Okay, and what about proteins and fats? When we talk about healthy fats, why are certain fish so important?
They deliver essential fatty acids, specifically omega-3s, EPA, and DHA. These fats are direct precursors to anti-inflammatory molecules in the body. They essentially short-circuit the inflammation cascade before it can even get going.
So fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, those should be a priority.
Definitely. And outside of fish, nuts like almonds and walnuts, seeds, and of course, high-quality extra virgin olive oil are excellent sources of monounsaturated fats.
We also see grains and spices on this list, even some treats.
That's right. Whole grains like oats and barley are important because of their fiber. Fiber supports your gut health, and a healthy gut microbiome is a huge lever for reducing inflammation system-wide.
And then the spices. Turmeric, ginger, garlic.
Yes. Turmeric contains curcumin, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory compound. Green tea is on the list for its catechins. And yes, dark chocolate, in moderation, delivers antioxidants.
But the key words there are dark and moderate.
Absolutely.
Okay, now for the flip side, the limit or avoid list. The foods that actively fan the flames we're trying to put out. Can you connect these specifically back to those fertility challenges like insulin resistance?
We have to. So in fats and carbs, we're talking about eliminating trans fats, the artificial ones and things like margarine or shortening. They actively promote inflammation. We also need to limit vegetable oils like corn, soy, and sunflower, especially in processed foods, because their high omega-6 profile can create an inflammatory imbalance.
And the refined carbs, the sugars, the things that digest really fast.
They are major drivers of inflammation and, critically, of rapid insulin spikes. Your body gets flooded with glucose, and that overworks the insulin system, which leads right back to the resistance we were talking about.
So that means things like white bread, pastries, white rice. Swap those for whole grain options?
Exactly. And anything with high added sugar, sugary cereals, sodas, juices, that all has to be avoided.
And what about the meat aisle or convenience foods?
We are looking at red meat and processed meats like bacon and sausages. Studies link them to higher inflammatory markers. Fried foods, like French fries, are also a problem because the frying process creates these things called AGEs, which are intensely pro-inflammatory.
And I assume fast food and processed snacks are just a cocktail of all these bad things.
They are, often a combination of refined oils, refined sugars, and inflammatory fats. They're almost designed to rev up that response.
So diet is our primary defense. But the sources are clear that some of our daily actions can pour fuel right back on that fire no matter how clean our plate is. Let's get into the lifestyle habits that directly hit our reproductive potential.
It's so important for you to realize these habits aren't just, generally unhealthy. They have specific documented negative effects on fertility. Let's start with smoking tobacco.
The research calls smoking a systemic double whammy.
It really is. Smoking aggressively ramps up inflammation throughout the entire body. And specifically, it upregulates inflammatory genes right inside the reproductive system. For women, this disrupts the hormonal environment, it leads to lower egg reserves, and a much higher risk of miscarriage or IVF failure.
And for men, The damage to sperm is profound.
It damages the integrity of the sperm's DNA. So even if fertilization happens, the embryo has a higher chance of carrying errors. And the sheer amount of oxidative stress just crushes sperm count and motility.
And the sources say even secondhand smoke can be a problem.
That's a crucial detail. Some studies show that even passive exposure can impair conception rates. It just shows how potent this inflammatory trigger is.
Okay, next up is a topic with a lot more nuance, given its growing social acceptance: marijuana. The sources do note that cannabis has some anti-inflammatory properties from compounds like CBD, but we need to talk about the main psychoactive element.
Right. The overall impact on fertility is largely negative because of THC, and THC disrupts the crucial endocannabinoid system. You can think of the ECS as the body's master regulator. It's vital for timing and messaging throughout the reproductive process, from follicle development all the way to implantation.
And THC just jams that signal.
It jams the signal, and the specific damage is pretty serious. In women, the sources show THC can accelerate egg maturation, but in a way that critically increases chromosomal errors.
So it reduces the chances of having a chromosomally normal embryo.
Exactly. We call that state of having the correct number of chromosomes euploidy. By increasing errors, THC reduces euploidy rates and overall embryo quality. It also throws off menstrual cycles, hormones, ovulation. And for men, regular THC used directly lowers sperm concentration and motility.
So even just a few times a week could be a problem.
The data suggests that regular use is linked to modestly increased infertility risks, yes.
And finally, we turn to alcohol, a known inflammation booster that promotes oxidative stress.
And this raises a really important question about, what's a safe level of consumption? The data suggests that even what many consider moderate drinking, 1 or 2 drinks per day, can disrupt that delicate hormonal balance. It can interfere with ovulation.
And higher intake just multiplies those risks.
It does, and it severely affects sperm quality. What's really critical is that studies looking at couples undergoing fertility treatments have linked even weekly alcohol consumption directly to lower pregnancy success rates.
So cutting back or even abstaining gives you a clear, measurable advantage.
It minimizes inflammation and maximizes your chances of success.
So what does this all mean when we put it together? The big takeaway seems to be that chronic inflammation, it doesn't have to be a roadblock. We have these simple, accessible levers we can pull every day. Prioritizing anti-inflammatory foods, that rainbow plate, healthy fats, whole grains.
And then eliminating or drastically limiting those pro-inflammatory habits. The smoking, the regular marijuana use, the high alcohol intake. You're actively cooling that silent fire.
When you connect this to the bigger picture, it's clear that fertility is incredibly complex.
It is. It's multifaceted. But taming inflammation is one of the smartest, most accessible starting points you have. It allows for a huge biological impact from these relatively small, manageable daily changes.
And of course, a reminder to always chat with a healthcare provider for personalized advice, especially if you're managing underlying conditions like PCOS, where inflammation is already a major factor.
Absolutely. But let's leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked about how inflammation accelerates ovarian decline, that idea of inflammaging. Consider how controlling these dietary and lifestyle factors does so much more than just assist conception right now. By reducing systemic inflammation, you are protecting your future reproductive health, and by extension, your overall longevity. You're investing in decades of better health no matter when conception happens. That's a pretty powerful return on investment.